In the last video, we talked about graphemes and phonemes. Graphemes being the visual representation of a sound, and phonemes being the smallest unit of sound that differentiates one word from another. We're going to utilize those concepts and shift into thinking about the way that sounds come into play, specifically in the American English language. So we're going to get a little bit more specific with background knowledge around sound structure. So when we're thinking about sounds, for the purposes of teaching reading, a simplified version is that American English contains 44 separate phonemes or speech sounds that are combined to create words that are different from one another. Now, I want you to keep that number 44 in your head because in an ideal language, there's a one-to-one correspondence between letters and sounds. If you think back to that 44 sounds in the American English language, you should remember that there are only 26 letters in our alphabet, meaning we are not quite ideal in terms of teaching that particular code. In order to make up for those additional sounds, we have additional symbols that we create by combining letters to represent those phonemes that aren't represented by the 26 letters of our alphabet. We also have some graphemes that index multiple phonemes. So for instance, the letter A has several sounds associated with it. There's that long A sound in eight, and that short A sound in pan, and that AW sound in all. All are represented by the same grapheme, but are three distinct phonemes. Try them yourselves, say them aloud, and hear the difference between each of these words. In addition, we also have some unsounded letters. For instance, the word night, as in of the round table. There's a ton of letters in this word that don't correspond with any sound at all. So if we were to represent the word night with just the sounds that we hear or the letters that index the sounds that we hear, we'd be left with N-I-T, night. In addition, there are multiple graphemes that represent only one phoneme. And we see this in the F in fine, in the GH in cough, and the PH in elephant. F, GH, and PH are three different graphemes that all correlate with the same phoneme, that F sound. Now, for us as teachers, we have to be able to help students when a grapheme represents more than one phoneme to recognize the clues that give us an idea of what sound that grapheme represents. And so that's going to be one of the focuses in this work as we build up our knowledge of phonics. And phonics is really a system of study uh, in terms of the alphabet and how our alphabet represents speech at that level of the phoneme. And in order to learn this code, we need our readers to be able to break apart or segment spoken words into phonemes and associate graphemes with those phonemes. Phonics is a way of teaching these relationships. When we're thinking about the role of phonics in reading education, we really have two larger goals. The first is to help students understand the relationship between letters and sounds, while also uh, put together and blend the sounds represented by those letters. In our next video, we're going to start talking about phonemic awareness and start digging into uh, some of the instructional activities we can do to help students do these things.